Welcome to the place inside, the place for alternative news, the place where the unseen, consciousness, science, and spirituality meet. The place where human beings who want to take action have an appointment. The place inside, with your host, Laurence Galian, an intellectual, musician, a spiritual teacher, tarotist, and writer. You are now entering the place inside, the home of the metaphysical freedom fighter.
Hello, this is Laurence Galian, and I'd like to welcome you to the 8th episode of The Place Inside, Spiritual Warfare with Nephilim, Nazis, and their negative ancestors. Tonight we have a very powerful show lined up for you, and our always famous photographs that not many people have seen. We are going to clearly define the goals of the negative extraterrestrials and their ancestors on planet Earth so that you and I are very clear about what I'm talking about when I say negative extraterrestrial. We are then going to discuss something that threatens our very humanity, and that is something called transhumanism. What is transhumanism, and why is it threatening our humanity? Along the way, we'll touch on the subject of the Fourth Reich in America. Finally, I'm going to give you your first mantra, designed to begin the process of activating you. What are the goals of the negative extraterrestrials who have come to Earth in the past and present? First, they want to enslave the masses. They want to make human beings into slaves. Some that came a very long time ago used genetic modification with the ape hominids walking the face of the earth to create their slaves. Second, they want to create an elite. Do you notice that there's always an elite on this planet? Why do you live in one room, for example, while someone else in your same city is living in a giant mansion with 50 rooms? Consider all the kings and queens and royalty that have reigned over people for untold eons. They are the elite. If you want to go to a concert, for example, there's always a selection of seats for sale, from the cheap seats to the expensive seats. And then there's the elite, who sit in the first few rows. The negative extraterrestrials want to make the Earth a slave colony. At one time, humans were their slaves. But they see the possibility of once again taking over the human race. These negative beings love to spread doom and helplessness into people's hearts. You must know that they feed off of this. If you are angry, suicidal, fearful, etc., these extraterrestrials see you as a kind of meal. They attach themselves to your nervous system and refill themselves with your negative energy. Negative extraterrestrials encourage people to do negative acts. There really is something to the image of the little devil sitting on your shoulder, encouraging you to do something bad. Tonight, we are going to ask the question, what is human? We are going to talk about the Watchers, the Archons, the Controllers, the Warlords, and the Nephilim. We will discuss the rise of the Fourth Reich in America. So, let's get going. One of the main reasons for our invasion of Iraq was to loot the Iraqi National Museum. We wanted the knowledge of ancient energy manipulation technology that had recently been discovered by French archaeologists. I'm talking about a dimensional portal, a stargate if you will, that was found. Now, this was the first place, I'm not talking about the museum, I'm talking about where the dimensional portal existed. This was the first place that U.S. forces secured after entering the country. You would think that they would seize some strategic position or one of Saddam's military complexes. No. They went to some remote place into the desert to secure this dimensional portal. And the curator of the museum also said that all the really top secret and the most precious objects were kept in a extremely secure basement with all sorts of sophisticated locking mechanisms. Now, he said that a great deal of public looting went on in the floors and stories above that. Okay, we can expect that looting to go on. But he said unexpectedly, looting went on in this basement area where all the most top secret finds in Iraq were stored. And he said this would be impossible for the average person, the average Iraqi, to loot, that it would have to be someone with advanced knowledge, advanced information about the locking mechanisms. So obviously we had spies in place before we invaded. We had them in place in the museum so that we knew exactly how to get into that basement level where the most secret objects were contained. Now it all ties together. UFOs, secret societies, politics, stargates, it all ties together. And if you don't factor UFOs into this puzzle, you will never understand what's going on in the world today. You must explore a wide range of topics. As I've warned you, don't be panicked by aliens coming to get you. Remember that through microwaves, satellites, and holograms, they can easily make it seem that alien ships are in the skies, or Jesus, or Imam Mahdi, or Krishna, or the Maitreya is coming through the clouds. The U.S. government did use the microwaves through a program called the Long Range Acoustic Device, the LRAD, as they call it, as a modified, quote-unquote, voice of God weapon to make Iraqi soldiers think they were hearing the voice of Allah in their heads, telling them to stop fighting. A huge amount of Iraqis put down their arms after hearing this. Wired magazine has written, quote, "It has long been known that microwaves at certain frequencies can produce an auditory effect that sounds like it's coming from within someone's head. And there's the nagging question of classified microwave work at Brooks Air Force Base that the Air Force stubbornly refuses to talk about." So we know that the LRAD has already been used against the Iraqis, and with success. We folks may be the next ones that it's used on. The U.S. has always been dominated by a wealthy elite. We are fascinated by the rich. They are like a royalty to us. We may complain about them, but just about every American buys into the idea that with hard work and some luck, he or she can be rich also. Now, the chances of that happening, generally speaking, are the chances of lightning striking you or winning the lottery. Now, I wanted to talk about the Fourth Reich. After World War II, a huge number of Nazis came into this country. You may not know this. You may think just we brought in a few rocket scientists. But actually from academia, defense industries, the space program, of course, the Wall Street financiers and the globalists, basically the people who try to run the world, were all infiltrated by the Nazis. In late 1942, George H.W. Bush's grandfather was prosecuted by the U.S. for being a financial frontman for the Nazis. The whole country is turning to the right. It's the blending of state and corporate power. In modern America, we have corporations gaining power over the state. I would say that they have largely taken control over the United States of America. But still, we have this blending of state and corporate power. Soon, we're going to be ready for a new dictator. This is being planned. When we see the destructions of the American economy, the average American is going to be so frightened that he or she will allow a dictator into power. They want to destroy humanity because they know what humanity is capable of. They know what a fully activated human being in action can do. So they want to stop you right in your tracks from becoming fully activated. A metaphysical freedom fighter. They are doing this just like they always talk people into doing stupid things by telling them that they will be happier and safer. Just like all the cameras on all our streets and buildings, we're told it's for our own safety, our own good. Well, now they're pushing something that's called transhumanism, all one word. Again, they are telling us we will be healthier, better looking, stronger, safer, and so forth. The downside is that we will no longer be human. Transhumanism is actually a very dangerous group of people that has been deceived with delusions of eternal life and becoming gods through the use of technological progress. It is a highly organized and well-financed movement that is extremely focused on subverting and replacing every aspect of what we are as human beings, including our physical biology, the individuality of our minds and purposes of our lives, and the replacement of all existing religious and spiritual beliefs with a new religion of their own, which is actually not new at all. I've got some breaking news here. A new study that shows 93% of unborn babies are contaminated with something called GMO, which stands for Genetically Modified Organism, toxins. Genetically modified crops entering through the mother finds its way into the fetus. This is not something that may happen in the future, folks. This is happening now. This study has just been released. No long-term studies have been done on genetically modified foods. None have taken place. We are the study. We have no idea what effect genetically modified foods will have on the human population in 100 years. We have eaten the same foods, grains, meats, and so forth for millions upon millions of years. Our bodies are genetically ready for these foods. Our bodies know how to digest them. The body does not recognize a tomato made with human genes, and your body does not know how to digest them. That's the problem. This is a widespread contamination of our food supply. If you are buying beef, pork, or chicken, know that the cows and the chickens are being fed GMO corn. All these animals are full of genetically modified food, and this gets into the cells of the beef, the pork, and the chicken. And besides, you should not be eating pork. It is filled with poisons and toxins. You can get, if you really want it, grass-fed, free-range, local grass-fed beef at your local farmer's market. It costs more, but which is worth more? Your good health or a quick death? In India, there are something like 30,000 suicides a year from farmers who did not get the yield that the GMO manufacturers promise them. Okay, folks, we need to take a quick break, and we will be right back with The Place Inside.
We are in the place inside, the home of the metaphysical freedom fighters, with your host, Laurence Galian.
Welcome back to The Place Inside. This is your host, Laurence Galian. And we were talking about transhumanism, genetically modified organisms, and I would like to continue in that vein. The hive mind, or what the transhumanists call the singularity. I realize other positive things are meant by the term singularity, but for them, the singularity that they are working toward will occur, they believe, when technology exists that will allow humans to upload their minds. So that is what they want to do. They want to upload their minds to a artificial memory device, a sort of global hard drive, if you will, so that the combined intelligence of all our minds will create this new super intelligence. And they see that as the singularity. I don't, but they do. And some of them also call it the hive mind. Remember that friendly bunch, the Borg, in Star Trek The Next Generation, if you watch that show. Now, there are many symbols of transhumanism, and you should become familiar with them. But in the interest of time, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm only going to explain a few of them to you. The first symbol is a combined biohazard and Ouroboros symbol. For those of you who don't know, the Ouroboros symbol is the symbol of the snake swallowing its own tail. It looks like a circle, and the snake has its tail in its own mouth, and it's forming a circle. So the transhumanist symbol is a combined Ouroboros symbol with the biohazard symbol. These two symbols superimposed over one another symbolize the fact that those who want to achieve true immortality and godhood must sooner or later, believe it or not, transcend their quote-unquote doomed biological shells, unquote, and become inorganic beings. Flesh is simply too fragile and limited for their purposes. Another symbol is the letter H and the plus sign. You will see that in a lot of places, the letter H and the plus sign. So the primary intended message is the transhumanist idea that humans are not good enough the way we are naturally, and we need to be altered with technological devices and reprogrammed with radically different ideas in order to be better, even if this must be done to us against our will. This idea is dangerously flawed, and it is a complete dehumanization of our species, as well as it being a very troublesome vision for the future of humanity. Transhumanism uses genetics, robotics, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology. Transhumanists also have a word for this. It's called GRIN, meaning the G for genetics, R for robotics, the I for artificial intelligence, and the N for nanotechnology. So if you see the term GRIN technologies, you know they're talking about transhumanism, or very well possibly could be talking about transhumanism. They are going, if they can, to radically redesign our minds, our memories, our physiology, our offspring, and even perhaps our souls. Let's be clear. Somewhere on this planet hides an ancestor of one of the warlords who used to rule humanity many hundreds of thousands of years ago. This is an extremely evil, powerful extraterrestrial, and it does its best to direct all human affairs. The earliest records of civilization, tell of the era when powerful human beings, or powerful beings, known to the Hebrews as the quote-unquote Watchers, and in the book of Genesis as the sons of God, mingled with humans, giving birth to part celestial, part terrestrial hybrids known as Nephilim. Okay? Again, the earliest records of civilization tell of an era when powerful beings known to the Hebrews as Watchers, and known in the book of Genesis as the sons of God, they mingled with human females, and the females gave birth to part celestial or extraterrestrial, let's say, part terrestrial hybrids, and these hybrids were known as the Nephilim. The great writer C.S. Lewis, and if you can, please run, don't walk to your local bookstore or Amazon webpage and order his space trilogy. Not the Chronicles of Narnia, that's is fantastic, but that's a group of children's books. His space trilogy was written for adults, and it's incredible. So anyway, he wrote the following, quote, "There is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and counterclaimed by Satan," unquote. So look for the first book in his trilogy. It is called Out of the Silent Planet. Out of the Silent Planet. It's fantastic science fiction. C.S. Lewis was a Christian, but in all these books he does not push his Christian agenda. It's just fabulous science fiction, and if you want to explore his Christian ideas, I myself very much respect Christianity, but that is not my religion. But I am a great admirer of C.S. Lewis, a brilliant man, a great friend of Tolkien, who of course wrote The Ring. Now, the people working on transhumanism or green technologies truly and seriously believe that they can make themselves gods. I have met one of these people, and believe me, they do believe this, and they state this publicly. I kid you not. For example, Leon R. Cass, former chairman on the President's Council on Bioethics, said, quote, "All of the boundaries are up for grabs. All of the boundaries that have defined us as human beings, boundaries between a human being and an animal, and between a human being and a superhuman being or a god," unquote. He's telling us it's all up for grabs. Of course, as usual, at first, all this technology will only be available to the rich. You know that. And the only time the middle class and the poor will see it is when they use it in their jobs at work, when it's convenient for the elite to allow them to use this technology. The government and the elite will always lie to you. They always want you to think that they are going to do something for you, and then they just screw you. Another technique that they will use on you is to imply that you aren't sophisticated or cool, or you aren't up to the latest discoveries if you don't agree with what they want to do with your body, implying that all the latest discoveries, anything new, is automatically good and should be accepted by the young as the direction of the future. No. You can say no. You have the right to say no. The Watchers, in the past, they worked extensively with genetic manipulation. They wanted slaves to serve them. They created what are called chimeras. That's spelled Chimeras, but it's pronounced chimeras. Half human, half animal beings. You may say what you want, but I know for a fact that chimeras are already being made in the laboratories of the world. I had a friend who was, I did not know this, but she was working with this genetic experimentation. And I knew she was working in some fashion with DNA, and one day I went to her laboratory on her invitation, and she was showing me all the DNA technology, the genomes and so forth, and I espied a door that said animals. There's a little sign that said animals on the door, and innocent, stupid me, I thought, oh, how cute. Oh, I want to see the animals. Believe me, that woman made it from one side of the room to the other, plastering her body across that door, and for all her life and all her strength, told me, please don't go in this room. I can just imagine what was in that room. They are making intelligent apes. Long ago they were putting wings on dogs and so forth, but now they are experimenting with chimpanzees that have basic human intelligence. Another little sidelight that may interest you. Do you know that corporations own parts of you? Yes. If you go to the hospital for a little procedure, I'm serious, for a little procedure, taking a little piece of flesh out of your skin or something like that, what do you think they do with the flesh they remove from you? Now, I thought they threw it out. I think most people think they throw it out. No, they don't throw it out. They sell it. And they test it. And if it is at all interesting to these transhuman experimenters, they will patent it. And you will no longer own that part of your body or any other parts of your body that correspond to it. They can then sell that part of you for literally millions of dollars without you getting a cent. Okay, people have taken these biotech organizations to court. saying, this is my body here, and you got millions of dollars. Can I please have a little? No. They did not get a cent. We live in a time when 1/5 of all our genes are owned by someone else. Okay, so now we're in 2011. 1/5 of all our genes are owned by someone else. Can you imagine in 5-10 years? Transgenic modifications have been going on for a very long time on planet Earth. However, humans are powerful. We eventually turned the tables on our masters and defeated them. We moved to a part of the Earth that we call Lemuria. However, the fact remains, and will always remain, that we are all children of the stars, because every human has extraterrestrial and earthly DNA mixed inside him or her. Okay, we're never going to change that. Already we know that the vegetables we are eating for dinner are genetically modified. They don't have to tell you anymore that they're genetically modified. They argue this in court, and their argument went something like this: if the public knows that these vegetables are genetically modified, they could become frightened. Oh my! Well, of course they're going to become frightened. Then they're not going to buy it. That's the bottom line. Maybe you don't know that a large number of the tomatoes you are eating actually have human genes in them. Part of the tomato you're eating contains human parts. That is true. I promise you. Again, they will introduce all of this as being a benefit to you. As they introduce genetically modified foods as food that will stay fresh longer in your refrigerator and will look more colorful and plump, they will tell you your children will be smarter and so on. Now, a while ago, a man named John Roberts was nominated for the Supreme Court. And in the hearings, U.S. Senator Joseph Biden asked during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings on the nomination of John Roberts to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court the following question, quote, "Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement?" There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over, unquote. Yes, they will tell you that your children and family will be much safer with these tags because the police will be able to locate them at all times. Very interesting. Transgenics is never a matter of inserting a single gene. Researchers also have to insert the associated genes necessary for the primary gene to function. See, that's a mistake that many people make. They think it's just they need to insert one gene for eye color or something like that, but no, they have to insert the associated genes. For example, most genes have insulators and promoters, they call them. The promoters might make proteins that switched off the animal's own genes to allow the new addition to take over, or they might enhance the workings of the injected gene itself. The insulators keep the new gene separated from the genes around it. In reality, the task of injecting a gene into an animal and making it work more closely resembles debugging a computer program than it does any biological process. And these experts in transgenic genetic modifications are basically computer programmers. I am not saying that all this work is bad and evil, but already the corporations that run America and the world have taken control of this new technology. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that the outcome of all this is not going to be good. Don't let them brainwash you, because they are going to try very hard to make you accept this. I will tell you what the problem is. The problem is not when we have responsible, good people in public office. The problem is what happens when, after all these technologies have been installed, and someone evil, some dictator, let's say, seizes office, or a military leader leads a successful coup, and we wake up one morning and there's some general on our TV screens. It's all great if some of these tools are used by responsible people. But what if they fall into the hands of the irresponsible? Ask yourself that. The scary point is, while the scientists have been working for the last couple of decades on all this, the lawmakers have been sitting on their asses, half asleep, many of them unawares of the true state of what's happening. Humanity is being stolen from the human race, and no one is doing anything about it. Legislation is being passed, but it is too little and too late to effectively stop all this from happening. Lastly, nanotechnology. This is probably the most dangerous of all the green technologies. Yes, it will be able to be injected into your veins and clean your whole body of cholesterol and plaque buildup in your veins. Yes, it will be able to do all sorts of operations without needing to cut the patient open. But should just one of these self-replicating and invisible, because they are so small, little machines escapes, and say it is programmed to destroy a certain type of cell, it will destroy those cells in everyone's body across the face of the earth. There is no stopping these things if they become loose. There will be no way to stop it. This is truly as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than nuclear technology, which also, I don't have to remind you, they first touted to us as a safe and clean form of energy. And now we have a meltdown in Fukushima, and a 30-year wave of radiation is slowly making its way across the Pacific Ocean, killing all sea life and plankton as it makes its course for the west coast of the United States and Mexico. It should be arriving here around 20 years from now, and lasts for about 10 years. The new version of the movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still, with Keanu Reeves, which I didn't think was really a great movie, but it graphically shows the power and potential of nanotechnology out of control. As we have discussed, as fully activated human beings, we do not need anything to make us stronger, more intelligent, and so forth. Just like they try to convince women that their vaginas naturally smell bad and women need to purchase some kind of perfume spray in order to correct this mistake God has made in the twisted minds of corporate demons. They also convinced women that childbirth was a disease and that women have to be in a hospital with doctors and nurses if they want to give birth. Women have been giving birth for millions of years without hospitals and doctors. They want to destroy the U.S. They want to create something called the Amero, the new currency of Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Read the book 1984, by George Orwell. A very important book. You gotta start reading. If you're not reading, you're driving with the emergency brake on. Very seriously, don't waste all your time online. You can talk and chat with your friends about how bad it is. Or you can educate yourself, transform yourself, and ready yourself for what is coming. Reading will help you tremendously in this regard. Do not feel like you're in the minority. This is only because the corporations run the media. But you are not a minority. As a matter of fact, the U.S. government, and I'll share a secret with you, is afraid of the American public. But since the media is controlled by these monsters, you would never guess this incredible fact. Let's get our history straightened out in our heads. The same people in Wall Street created communism in Russia. Trotsky was in New York. They sent him into Russia. These Wall Street people were planning the Cold War 50 years before it started. But Russia got too strong. So we put this little man in charge, financed by Wall Street, who lived in Germany to fight against the communists. However, they did not want Germany to be in charge of the money, so the financiers turned against him. But we did not defeat the Nazis. They swapped all their technology for pardon, entrance, and immunity to the United States. Exotic technology. How did the Nazis get so far ahead of us in technology? They had built their own flying saucer and a nuclear weapon. Unfortunately, they did not have a reliable delivery system. But where did they get all this? First, the Germans had their own remote viewers. Germany had always been involved in the esoteric sciences, looking into other dimensions. I am talking about the natural powers of the human being. However, they used them for evil purposes. But there were many esoteric societies, the Thule Society, the Vril Society, Theosophy, and so forth. I'm not saying these organizations are evil, just that Germany has had a long history of esoteric exploration. There was also a program in Germany called Magic, M-A-J-I-K. Very interesting, because it is the anglicized version of what later came to be known in the U.S. as Majestic 12. Maybe when the Nazis came into America with all their mind control, their remote viewing, and spiritual technology, they kept doing the same thing in the U.S. that they were doing in Germany. Let me ask you, who is the National Security Council? I bet the majority of you don't know. They're in charge of UFOs. You always hear the National Security Council mentioned in the news, but the vast majority of people have no idea who they are. Well, I'll tell you. The National Security Council consists of the President, the Vice President, the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of Defense. That's it. The President appoints 2 of these people. And so basically, we have a dictatorship. We need to know the truth of our beginnings. There are alternative origins to the human species. We were told that the pyramids were built by Egyptian workers, but there are no hieroglyphics showing massive amounts of workers pushing huge blocks of stones. No, they used sonic frequencies, scalar waves, and other exotic energies to build the pyramids. We let criminals and Nazis take control of the United States of America. Americans need to realize they are not so free. That's the beginning of waking up. If you think you are free, just ask yourself, can you just pick yourself up and move to another country? No, you're not free. You don't have any idea what freedom is. We Americans work hard, but your bosses don't respect you. You are loyal to the company, but the company has no loyalty to you. There's no money in Social Security. Wall Street has stolen your pension and investments. So buy property, please. Buy tangible assets. Start working at doing things you enjoy, not becoming dependent on bosses. So, I want you to start working on mantras so that you may become a fully activated human being. Now, you may be thinking I'm talking about the Hindu mantras, which are very good and powerful. But there is something called the Western Mystery Tradition. And I want to give you a very powerful mantra in English from this Western Mystery Tradition. This was created by Rudolf Steiner, one of the greatest Western initiates who ever walked this earth. Now, a mantra is silently repeated without stopping all day long and as you're falling asleep. So don't say to yourself, I'm going to do my mantra for 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. No, it is not done like that. It is repeated continuously throughout the day. It awakens sleeping faculties inside you. So your first mantra is this: power in me. Say this silently to yourself over and over again. If you've noticed you stopped, just resume. Of course you will. When just starting out, unconsciously stop doing your mantra. Don't worry about that. Just resume making the mantra. Continue to practice this mantra until I give you your next mantra. Again, power in me. This ends our transmission for tonight. We will be in contact soon.